All right, we are live, letting everyone know. Hi, everybody. Welcome out Tuesday night, the Late Show with Chris and Amy. It's good to see you guys here. Hope you all had a good Memorial Day weekend. It's good to be here with everybody. And if you've never been here before, you were invited by somebody. We are the Next Level Mastermind, and we have these hangouts every Tuesday night to provide value for the community and for our team to just on different topics. And we have a great hangout planned for you tonight. So I am here alongside my brilliant business partner and dear friend, Chris Reshlow. Chris, how you doing tonight?
I'm all right. I'm good. I'm here. I'm present.
Vertical and breathing?
Yes. Much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, tonight's going to be good. Tonight's going to be fun. I feel like, we call it the Late Show with Amy and Chris. We should have like these monologues that we start off with all these jokes and clips and one-liners, Someone should write that. Me. Why do I think that's so?
We could start off, since my daughter is always blogging on Tuesday nights. She because I have to get on here, I let her do her blog post before she goes to bed, and then she sends it to me. And so we could always start off by featuring her silly blog of the day, just to give people some inspiration. You can literally blog about anything. Oh my gosh.
That's way cool.
She just sent us a blog post she just wrote, you guys. It's about, at some point you have to stop eating Pringles, is the name of it. Oh my God. I love it.
Welcome out, everyone.
Yes, welcome out.
The Next Level Mastermind. For those of you who were invited here, welcome out. You're welcome to be here. You're welcome to put your questions and comments below. We free flow here. We have some training. We have a few things we talk about, a few concepts, and things that we want to not impress you with, but impress upon you. And so if you're here, then that means you're meant to be here. Tonight's going to be a good night. And yeah, we welcome all that's here. If you've been here for the first time, if you've been invited here, this is your first time, welcome out. And tonight you'll get a little bit of an idea of what our mastermind really is about, how it can help you, what it's really about, and why you should be a part of it. So, interesting perspective I'm going to give tonight about a few things that you may not have.
For a change.
Oh, I love love the sarcasm.
Yeah, because Chris's perspective is usually very uninteresting and very, very blasé.
Yeah. I think the fact that I'm starting off almost in an idiot savant type style, it means that this may get real good.
Yeah.
That plant needs water. I just randomly saw my plant that needs some water. So yeah, it's one of those things. So some of you came from the special affiliates only hangout tonight, and unfortunately I wasn't able to be on for the majority of that. Kind of got on at first and didn't get a chance to participate, but then had a few other things happening that I had to take care of. And so don't really have all the details there with that stuff. All I know is, for those of you that are inside of Kalatu, if you were there, the details of Kalatu Premium were there and talked about on the webcast. I'm sure that, whatever all those exact details are, which I should really pay more closer attention to, are what you guys need to make your decisions on how to go about all that. I'm sure that's awesome. I'm sure whatever was there tonight is, next level stuff. So I really can't get into a lot of that because I wasn't really there to experience all of it. So I'd rather get into some of the cool stuff that is unique and specific to our team, and some of the cool stuff about what I believe is really some of the core of this business and the core of online marketing as a whole, and how it's evolved into internet marketing and network marketing and affiliate marketing, how all of that's really come together now in a way that, we really have never had any type of frame of reference to be able to work from. And so it's like we kind of had to, over the last couple of years, kind of create this and come from a place of, what I feel and I'm thankful about is from the right place, from the heart, of being able to craft and create something that we realize is really special and something that can provide a place for growth for people, which is huge in my mind and so important. It's funny, I got an email from one of my mentors I think it was last week, that told me it's interesting how people will overpay for a quote unquote strategy that they think is going to make them a lot of money, not realizing that the thing that actually makes them a lot of money is the stuff that they don't pay a lot for, which is the stuff that's going to help them understand things about their mind and themselves and their life and their business in ways that they had never been taught to think before. And I'm talking about the mindset of an entrepreneur. And a real true entrepreneur understands the risk that's required and understands that if it's going to be, it's up to them, that they've got to put in the work. And there is, with technology becoming increasingly easily readily available in so many different mediums, there's better mousetraps being built all the time, supposedly. And because of that, one could get so off into a sea of strategies and concepts and buying frivolous stuff that with very little real value, and sometimes forget themselves in all of this, which has been the guiding light in my life for my personal entrepreneurial journey, as well as Amy's that I know. And so there's some of those thoughts and things that, funny enough, my biggest realizations in this industry had nothing to do with a strategy or a way to make money, which there is plentiful on that. And all you need is, it's like, how many ways can you post something on Instagram, or how many ways can you advertise on Facebook, or how many ways can you, do this type of stuff, when at the ultimate core of it, you've got to understand your messaging. You've got to understand how to reach out and resonate with the people that you want to reach, and stop overcomplicating the ever-loving, God-loving shit out of it at times, and realize who you're connecting with instead of complicating it so much. And one of those things is understanding the person you want to reach and understanding how to have a one-on-one conversation with them. And that's what you do with your video camera. That's what you do with your blog or your blank canvas of your post, or whatever it is that you choose to do within your marketing. And so, the ultimate thing is really being able to send it to messages that are in alignment with that can properly sell something of value that backs up and delivers on the value that it promises. And so that's what I want to encourage a lot of you to think about, is ultimately there is a big part of this that is not on you. That is, if you're connected with a type of a system or a marketing system or a company or something like that, that there are certain things that they have the responsibility to be able to prove and to be able to do and to be able to sell, if that's the agreement that you have. But the other part is, hey, how about you live up to your agreement as well and do your part? And what I mean by that is doing the work. And a lot of people seem to search for things outside of themselves in a sense of, well, this system is going to do it for me. And wouldn't it be just so great if we could be so naive as to believe that someone comes along and says, hey, I got this system and it's going to do everything for you. And all you have to do is press some buttons and it's going to spit out money. But isn't it funny enough that shit actually flies on the internet these days? And how many of you have been victims to that? Because you're constantly searching for something outside of yourself, something better, instead of developing yourself. And that's why on this Hangout, we talk about certain lessons and tell stories of things that we've been through and lessons we've been through, and also teach about the things we've learned and tell the stories of them so that you understand how we learned them, why we learned them, why we stand for it. Why I feel like a a lot of people in the online world really miss the forest for the trees. And that's, I think, is, the forest for the trees in terms of their business and what they're really doing, what they're really here to do, which ultimately causes that 97%, attrition rate over 12 months, and ultimately, I don't really blame anyone for that, but yourself, because you're a sentient human being that can figure this stuff out and course correct if you're actually doing the work. And when you do put in the work and you continue to move forward on that, you start to figure things out, which is a funny thing about creativity. So many people are like, I want to find my purpose. And I'm just going to say these few things and then, open it up, and me and Amy will talk about a few things. But, one of the things that is just coming right now, I didn't know I was going to talk about this, was, you don't find your purpose. Ultimately, you decide your purpose. Like a lot of people are like, I got to go find myself or find my purpose. Well, sure. Okay. In a way we find it, but we find it also by deciding upon it. And it's one of the things that, I don't really speak in a woo-woo way, a lot more that, like Amy will come across as, however, I still operate there as well. And one of the things I always remember Esther Hicks saying, and she actually said it in the movie The Secret, which I think is a gross underestimate of the power of the human mind and will and spirit, in the way it was presented. However, it hit on some core truths, but it was that, your real purpose is to decide your purpose and then to focus upon it. And so where's your focus? What are you creating? It's like the hangout we had a couple weeks ago where I was talking about what are the words you're speaking. Well, the words you're speaking are going to come from where you're focusing. And so based on current results in your life, where are you at? And so all those things you want to take into effect, into thought, into your mind, when some people are like, what am I supposed to do? And what should I do? And I need to find myself and find my purpose. And then I need to go find the guru and the savior. And then I need to go find the right strategy. And when I find all those things, I will begin. And I think that's completely backwards as to everything that I know, because I know that my creativity comes from getting into action mode and screwing things up and looking at it and go, okay, now how can I get creative to solve this? And that's where your resourcefulness comes in. And you see, one of the things I do know about myself is I understand my resourcefulness. And ultimately, I know that no matter what happens, that resourcefulness is going to carry me through, even in times when it has looked bleak, when the future looks blurry, when the future doesn't look real bright. And so for a lot of you tonight, I'm talking to you who are here right now that are like, I really haven't figured this thing out yet. I don't seem to be making sales. I can't seem to understand what it is. And for one, I'm going to say, don't be so hard on yourself, but also be honest with yourself. And so doing the things that, like I said last week, is, ask yourself honestly, and you don't have to be honest with me, but, let's just be real from the start, and then we'll have some fun the rest of the time and get into a little more training later, is, what are you doing daily? Ultimately, unless you've built something that is self-perpetuating and has its own gravity, what are you doing daily? Because that's the thing that is going to yield results, yield fruit. It's going to bear fruit. And so what are you focusing upon? What are you praying upon? What are you meditating upon? What are you working upon? What are you doing every day? And what part of marketing is going out there and getting into the marketplace for you? When is your unique message getting out there so that you can stand outside of other people, of the noise, and actually be heard and said, or be heard and listened to? And how do you become that person that someone wants to be, and or wants to be aligned with? Not in an egoic way, but as someone to provide value, as someone to be able to be a conduit to something that works for that other person, so that you serve them. And ultimately, I really still believe, just like many of the greats have said, the greatest philosophers in one way or another say, when you help enough people, you get helped. And when you help enough other people successful, your success is automatic. And so I think that rearranges itself that way on purpose. Whoever does that and whatever does that, I'm not here to put any spiritual beliefs on you. All I know is that seems to work that way. And I've seen enough of it prevalent in my own life. So There's going to be some things I'm going to talk about tonight that may be a little controversial. Imagine that. And also, I'm going to see if I can like have you peek into my mind as to understanding how some of the things I've created that have, been very successful, as to how that thought process went for me, so that you can also learn to think like that too and create that for yourself, rather than someone coming along saying, hey, let me save you so that you don't have to think about anything and you just give me money and I'll give you money back, which doesn't really seem to work that way. Hopefully we're past that, but some people forget that, right? It's kind of like that thing in that movie. It's funny, I was watching a while back that movie American Hustle. And I sat there and watched the guy sit down, the cop sit down with the guy, and he said, you make these bad loans to people on purpose. And how do you find these people? You get them to come to you at the right time when they're desperate. You prey on desperate people when they can't make a rational decision out of fear and desperation. And if there's anything you take away from tonight, there's a part of this industry that is a part of the problem. There's a part of this industry that is a part of the solution. I will tell you, a part of the problem is the fear-mongering and the feeding on and taking advantage of desperate people type of marketing that happens. That is very misleading. It says, give me your last $100 and I'm going to show you the secrets to the universe and how I made all this money, and they don't. And even if they do, it's really up to you as the entrepreneur to do the work yourself, because there's no mystical thing that magically happens, although some people try to make it seem like that. There's no Wizard of Oz. It's someone else pulling strings behind the curtain, trying to make themselves look like they're something they're not. And I promise you, going down those one-lane roads, it's not always easy to come back from, because it's a one-way road. And I just want to warn some of you tonight, not to fearmonger, but to let you know that that's the reality of what some of this industry does, and that there is another side of it, which is a part of the solution, which I really feel a lot of you really are a part of here tonight, which is you're lifting people up and enhancing their lives and speaking life and creating, and not preying on people, but actually inspiring people. And I don't know about you, but I tend to want to be in the solution side of things. That's where we live. That's what we do. That's why we're here. And that's why we get here every Tuesday, talk about these things that are sometimes the hard things that people won't say. But you know what? You ain't afraid to say it. So on that note, over to you, Amy.
Yeah. So if you guys, is that echo coming from near you, Chris? Do you hear that?
What's that?
An echo.
Oh yeah, your audio has kind of been choppy ever since you got on.
But I'm hearing myself.
Are you? Okay. Give me 1 sec. Let me see if I can. Okay, go ahead now.
Okay. Yep, that's good.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay. Maybe, I don't know what was up.
I had to change microphones, that's all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you guys have ever listened to any of my trainings, you know that I'm a big, I honestly, the biggest thing that I teach and believe in is about becoming a person of value, of becoming a master of whatever niche you decide to be in, whatever your message is. I think the biggest thing that stops people from succeeding is a lack of focus. And like Chris said, there's people out there going out trying to find, figure out the next strategy, or, switching from niche to niche, or whatever they're doing, trying to figure out the secret sauce. And honestly, there is no secret sauce. It's a matter of becoming that, like putting in the work to really get good at whatever it is that your purpose is, whatever your message is, so that you can become a person of value. And once you do that, it doesn't matter what strategy you use. None of that matters. Like, people will seek you out because you have value to share. And, one of the biggest things that I believe needs to be present is, you need to know why. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, it's going to take work. Like Chris said, there's no system that's going to have money come falling out of the sky. And if you're not in touch with why you're doing what you're doing, it's very easy to get distracted and to sit there and to be like thinking that you're working, but you're actually like going on Facebook and doing all this, stuff that's just, keeping you busy, but you're not actually producing results. If you have a really strong why, it's a lot easier to become a master of your niche, study your niche, create value on a daily basis, get it out there to the marketplace, do that over and over and over for as long as it takes to start getting results. And results don't come immediately, for the most part. For me, I've created a lot of success, but it didn't come overnight. It came from grinding for years and years and years, just putting in my time. And even when I have tried new things, like, you guys know recently I started a CrossFit blog. I blogged every day for 40 days with 0 results. And after being consistent over time is when I started to see stuff happening. But the thing is, so many people, they don't stay the course. They just get, people get distracted or discouraged because they don't see results right away. And then they think that they need to, join a different company or try a different marketing strategy or something like that. I know this sounds really, really basic. And you've heard me say it before if you've been around me for any length of time. But the reason I say it is because it's true. It's been my experience that, if you become a master at something, people will seek you out. And it might not look the way you think it's going to look, because it hasn't for me. My path has changed significantly from the way I thought it was going to look, but it's because I've stayed on my path that, and true to my passion and true to my purpose, that things have unraveled for me. I wanted to read a little something that I wrote yesterday. Yesterday was Memorial Day. Memorial Day is always emotional for me because me and my kids run Boulder every year. It's a 10K race here in Boulder. And at the end, we end up in the stadium at Folsom Stadium, which is the football stadium at University of Colorado. And they have a ceremony there where they really acknowledge the people that have lost their lives for our country. There was 4 people there yesterday that were a lot. I don't know exactly what their ages were. They were probably in their 70s. People that had contributed a significant amount of their lives to our country. There was 2 men and 2 women, and they showed pictures of them when they were younger and talked about the things that they had done over the years for our country, fighting for our country. And I get so emotional when I listen to this. I literally just cry and cry and cry. And I love that I'm able to expose my kids to this too, because I think it's amazing. One of the things that happened as well yesterday was, which they do every year, which is so emotional for me, is the new military recruits take their enlistment oath. So, somebody in the microphone basically explains what this means. It means that they're basically, taking their oath to serve our country. And so they all raise the right hand, and then they have to repeat after this guy who says, state your name, and then he reads the oath. And I literally am bawling. And Ava yesterday was like, what are they doing, Mama? And I explained to her, from this day forward, they're serving our country. And listening to them take that oath for what that actually means is amazing. So anyway, when I go through this, and they have these parachuters that come into the stadium that have, each one has a different flag that represents, one's for the Army, one's for the Air Force. They had one for the prisoners of war, and they have this patriotic music playing while this is happening. So it just really gets you present to these people that are fighting for our freedom. And so what happens for me is I'm standing there with my kids, and I just get so present to the freedom that we have, and what a gift it is to live in a country where we can basically do whatever we want. It's like free enterprise, right? And there's so much opportunity here, and it's, and I just felt so grateful. And meanwhile, there's just people out there on the battlefields that are fighting to make sure that we have the freedom. And anyway, it's profound and very, very emotional for me. And I'm just gonna, I kind of told you a lot about what I experienced yesterday, but I said, I feel so fortunate to live in such an amazing country, one that has so much opportunity at our fingertips. As I stood there beside my two amazing daughters in that stadium today, I felt so much gratitude for the lifestyle freedom that we have, and for the fact that I get to work at home and never miss a beat in my kids' lives. Memorial Day, for me, represents freedom. And as an entrepreneur, if you're anything like me, you've had days where you've wanted to quit. But you won't quit because you have a burning desire in you to create that freedom that 99% of people won't ever get, simply because they aren't willing to do what it takes to have it. And those of us that are willing to do what it takes know that creating freedom requires commitment, compromise, investment in ourselves and our education, etc. Sometimes it requires doing things you don't necessarily want to do today so that you can live a life of freedom tomorrow. That's been my experience anyway. So the reason I thought to share this just now is just because of what Chris was saying about, thinking that there's going to be some like magic bullet that you're going to eventually find if you don't put in your time and you don't follow your path and you don't tap into your purpose and you don't actually, in my opinion, it's worth it. It's such a better investment of your time to do the same, to be walking down a path of purpose on a daily basis than to be constantly trying to figure out what your purpose is and changing it on a daily basis, because that doesn't amount in any kind of residual payoff of any kind. Nothing amounts from that. So the key, I guess what I'm trying to get to, and the point I'm trying to make is it's just really about focus. It's about getting clear about what I forget how you said it, Chris, choosing your purpose and acting upon that, something like that. Yeah. So rather than changing your purpose on a daily basis, or just, floundering out there, trying to do stuff, but none of it is like going in any kind of a focused direction, choose your purpose and focus upon it on a daily basis and become a person of value in your message to the world and to the marketplace. And you will, it might not happen overnight, but you will eventually be sought after and people will want what you have to offer, whatever that is. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. And again, you have to have a burning desire for freedom, period. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to succeed at it, you have to have a burning desire for freedom. Because yes, there have been times that I've wanted to quit, and no, never for 1 second have I actually really considered quitting, because I have a burning desire for freedom that's bigger than any desire to give up. So,
it's an amazing thing because it's a choice. It's a personal choice to have personal sovereignty. I had a conversation with one of my buddies who I grew up with just recently. And although my buddy watched me and witnessed me always doing one entrepreneurial other, that was never his reality. That was never his thing. And it's funny, but he watched me, go through real estate. He watched me do all the entrepreneurial things I've done. And I was talking with him and his girlfriend recently, and it was so funny to see the stark differences between someone who is not an entrepreneur and the way that they think about life, And I'm listening to them say things like, yeah, but you got to have money to make money, to invest, a lot of money that most people don't have in order to make money in a business. And you're not going to make a lot of money. And the fact that, 95% of businesses fail in 2 years. And, I just don't need I need the security. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like one of my other friends who was talking about that was telling me about how much better off he would be with his retirement and his security from his union. That, funny enough, would not be happening, is not going to happen because, like I just look at that union and I'm like, oh my God, that money's not even going to be there for him when he retires, like they're giving it to everyone now. Yeah, so kind of funny. And so I looked at that different mindset, and it's like it was sad to see how locked in my friends were to a life that was like their own prison. And the fact that they had to look at their life every day and think that like their prison, was that they had to get up and go to work every day. And like that burden, like the way they talked around people was totally different. Like I got around, funny enough, one of my friends this last weekend, we had a graduation party for one of my friends. His daughter was graduating, and we're inside the little clubhouse area at the apartment complex that they live at, which was the old apartment complex that I originally moved down to in Littleton, Colorado, originally moving in with my sister. And they had this big apartment complex, and they have this little clubhouse that's for rent when they throw parties and stuff. And it was the graduation party for their daughter. And the people that were inside there were all people who were not entrepreneurs. And it's funny, it's like a stark difference because it's like one of them, as a perfect example, would walk in the door, and their assumption when they look at other people, they kind of go, wow, tired. You tired? What a day, huh? And it was like, their assumption was that I had a shitty day too, where I was a slave.
Gross.
Yeah. And it's difficult to like, and you look at them and you're like, these are a result of your choices, which, some people could sit here and argue and say, look, some people have had tough situations and things happen in their life. I get that. But I also know the mind of an entrepreneur is one that figures things out. And it's funny, I was watching this analogy today of two different people in an analogy that was simplified by the Stanford professor about creativity. It was hilarious. And she teaches creativity and entrepreneurialism and stuff. And I'm like, teach creativity? I gotta see this. How do you teach creativity? I was all like, come on, And she was like, what we've noticed is, when you test people on certain things, these two distinctions of people are, one is that they feel like life is a puzzle. And so they start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And when they get to a place where they feel like they don't have the piece of the puzzle, they feel like they have a missing piece, they stop. They stop. And they're like, I don't have the other piece. This must not be worth it. This must not be my thing. And they stop and they get despondent. And they make decisions out of fear of loss and security. And then they said, but there's the other type of person, which is the far less minority of people, that they're given all the puzzle pieces. And instead of putting the puzzle together in the different pieces where they're supposed to fit together, they create something and rearrange all the pieces they have to be something that they create, that they make theirs, and they create the solution to the problem. Whereas before, in the other analogy of the person with the missing puzzle, that missing piece of the puzzle is the problem, and they can't get past it. Just like my friend who was like, yeah, you got to have a lot of money to make money. You got to invest it for a long time, but I need that secure income coming in order to do that, and I don't have that. And if I do have that secure income coming in, I'm working all the time. So how am I going to create that? And I'm like, oh my God, this is like entrepreneurialism, like 01, not even 101, like, oh my God. And so, but it's funny because some people don't, get that. and realize that you can be very resourceful and, you know, use and create and become resourceful and creative in terms of the way that you either bring in people to fund you, find the money to fund something you need, invest in yourself, save your money from what you're doing, and actually get smart about it rather than making excuses about it and paying, you know, a lot of money for your cable bill every month and watching, you know, reruns of The Simpsons or American Idol, which just got canceled. So now you're going to go buy all the seasons to like do it in a marathon and eat a bunch of popcorn and chips and soda, right? On a Saturday because you're so stressed out you can't handle anything else from working all week, right? And the reality is that it's your focus. And understanding that the people that take those puzzle pieces and kind of create something different, they don't put the puzzle together. They don't follow those rules. They don't follow the rules that society has oppressed upon us, that it says that you are mediocre and you have to conform to this or people are not going to like you, or that taking risks is a bad thing, you know, or playing it safe is okay. Now, I can understand some single mothers right now are probably thinking, look, I gotta take care of my kids. Like I gotta, you know, I can't be taking lots of risks. Oh no, I get that. My sisters, almost all my sisters have been in that situation at one point or another. And you're also on this hangout with Amy, who has dealt with that situation as well, where she didn't have anyone contributing financially. It's like some single mothers have like child support coming in. She didn't have that luxury at first when she had to deal with stuff. And so I get that. And I know that Amy can speak on that as well and talk about that mindset and what it feels like to be in that position and how you can creatively find a way, and that ultimately that resolve of, okay, you know what, I don't know how all of this looks, but I'm going to figure this out along the way. And that's funny with that Stanford professor, which, you know, I'm very, very careful of professors, right, in academia. I kind of like take a lot of what they do with a grain of salt, especially after a hilarious story I'll tell you guys in a minute about, oh my God, it's ridiculous. But what I can say is her work and her research on this was actually quite well put together. And although I found her voice, I was like, how could I ever sit through a lecture like that ever in my life with that kind of voice? But I was able to understand some of the principles here of what she was teaching and what she had gathered from lots of observation of entrepreneurs and people in creativity and how entrepreneurs figure out their creativity. And one of them is, you know, just like I said, they take these pieces of the puzzle, they don't follow the rules, and they create something of their own. And they don't stop. They decide something and they never know exactly how they're going to do it, but they do it. Some of their studies were case studies of groups of people that were given, you know, look, this is the thing you have to solve, and you have to come up with 100 different ways to solve it. And so they all spent all day brainstorming on whiteboards, and they showed like the different whiteboards and all the different ideas on how to like solve, like how to make this goldfish more entertaining than, you know, the goldfish being boring and swimming around in a little bowl of water. And they had all these ideas on how to do it. But it's funny that when they did this, they talked about all their tests, that something magical kind of happened at that 100th idea, where now all of a sudden you're not solving the problem at the same level of thinking that it was created at. It actually was created, or actually was being solved at a higher level. And sometimes you have to exhaust the ideas at that level that it was created at in order for you to go, okay, here's all the things that don't work. And some of you are like, what do you mean I have to fail like every day for like a long time in order to figure this out? There's nothing glamorous about saying that that's the truth. But the good news is that when you have the right mentors that have your best interest at heart, they can help you, if you're coachable and mentorable and teachable, to not make as many mistakes. We can come along and say, look, we've made these mistakes, and you know, some of these you may have to learn for yourself if you don't believe it yet, but some of these you can alleviate. And that's what we've done with a lot of people. I'm proud of the fact that I've helped a lot of people make a lot of money. I'm proud of the fact that I took someone who had never had any success in anything, dropped out of college, and they're now a multiple six-figure earner, very successful. I'm proud of the fact that I've been able to teach a lot of what I know to others. And although it took a lot longer than we all thought, what I realized is the reason why I spent time with them is I knew they were not going to quit. They were committed to this even when they didn't understand it all. You see, normally a confused brain doesn't really move forward. But the funny thing that they even talked about in that study about the entrepreneur is that they had this certain part about them that were like, I don't know how to move forward. I'm a little confused, but I'm going to attack it anyway. And it's funny that I remember as a kid working for my dad in our company, insulation company. We actually ran an insulation company that, yes, Stephanie, you made me look. I did watch that this morning. Yes, Matt, relax. Let me make this point. The funny thing about this is that, I was never able to understand directions as a kid. They actually thought I was dyslexic, and I used to write letters backwards, so I actually had a mild form of dyslexia. And I was the last kid to learn how to read in first grade, and they almost flunked me in kindergarten. They wanted to hold me back in kindergarten, saying I wasn't ready yet. And what happened is that my mother was like, "There's no way you're holding him back. He's got this different way of learning, but the kid is going to figure it out." Because I had this even thing where I was like, I would always attack things, and even riding on top of little plastic dump trucks and toys. I was just like, I'd be tenacious about it. And my mom was like, "He's going to figure this out and do this." And what happened is by the end of my first grade year, I had learned to read, and in fact was told by the teacher, pronounced to the class, that I was the #1 reader in the whole class. So I caught up, but I had to attack it with a tenacity of reading and reading and reading to learn it. And also as a teenager growing up inside my dad's company, I couldn't understand when I was just learning how to do labor work and learning the trade of insulation. My uncles, who had no patience whatsoever, would yell unmercilessly at me and give me directions in a yelling tone where normally I'm like, I can't even really think at what they're saying because they're yelling so loud at me because they're in the heat of the moment of trying to work so fast, right? Was some of their unhealthy patterns. But I never could understand the things they were saying because I was so freaked out at always being yelled at. I couldn't process what they were telling me. And so I would just attack the situation or the task, not knowing exactly how to do it. They would literally be like, "Do this, say this, pick up this, do this over here, and run over there and do this." I'm like, "Bleh." And I'd go and do it, and then I'd get yelled at more because I'd be figuring it out as I go. And at first, it was sometimes difficult. And I guess I'm seeing some resentment coming up from that, thinking about them sometimes about that. Why couldn't you just relax? Oh my God. But in that scared state of not even being able to process what I was being told because I was being mercilessly yelled at, I didn't stop and freeze. It's that fight, flight, or freeze thing. I didn't freeze. I would go and do it and figure it out as I did it. And sometimes they would keep yelling at me, and I had to learn how to block it out and continue to figure it out. And then eventually I would start to learn how to figure it out on my own. And in fact, I came up with ways to be even more efficient in the process and the operation than they were already currently doing, and they grew up doing this. And yet, because of their egos, funny enough, they wanted to be so right, which is what you'll find a lot of your friends and family are, going to do with you, if you haven't already experienced that. Is I had a kind of a unique situation where I would go to my dad, who was the actual boss. My brothers were his business partners, but he was the one that was kind of in charge of everything. And so at night, when I was like at dinner, I would explain my findings to my dad about how I thought the system would work better. And even at first, he'd be like, oh, let me think about that. And then it would come to find out later, he would actually come to me and say, and sometimes he wouldn't say anything to me because he didn't want to like encourage me to always question their authority, because I did enough of that anyway. But I found him starting to implement those new updated processes that I had figured out slowly into the work process with my uncles. And it's because it was funny enough, I wasn't listening to how just to do it. Although I've tried, I did my best, I kind of had to figure this out. And then, funny enough, a guy who they hired from outside the family who had experience with doing this, he had moved out of state, or he moved up to Alaska from out of states. His name was Sam. And Sam was really, really smart. And Sam would see me working, and we actually worked well together because I wasn't always being yelled at by my uncles. Sam wouldn't yell at me. And so Sam would notice that when he actually told me to do something and he knew what he was doing, Sam knew, and I wasn't being yelled at, I could understand what he was saying. And I actually got it because I actually was able to learn from someone who wasn't like yelling and screaming at me, right? But because I had already gone through the process of figuring a lot of stuff out, he was like, wow, you've kind of got this figured out pretty well, but let me help you with these few things to go even further. And so there was that part of me that finally learned how to take advice from people who were good at it, and from the people I wanted to be like, and the people that had the results that I had or had the results I wanted, versus the people that I didn't want their life, like my uncles. And so funny enough, this analogy, which is a totally 100% true story in every sense of it, applies to business and entrepreneurship. Whereas an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to, in fear, attack things and figure it out. Rather than listening to all the noise and freezing and going, oh my God, I'm so confused. I'm on everybody's list. I'm getting all these emails. I'm getting all these new strategies. Oh my God, I'm missing this strategy that might make me all this money because this other person just made all this money doing this. And that may not work for you. And the fact that a real entrepreneur has focus and they stay at one thing and master it, that's where mastery comes from. And so my whole lesson and thought and moral of the story here is, for one, you may not completely understand everything you're doing, but if you stop, you're not going to learn anymore. And from stopping and being in stasis, you're not going to figure it out. Stopping and trying to figure out and and imagine a problem and imagine the solution to it before you have encountered it is never going to work that I've seen. Getting in action mode and doing it is where it happens. I can always tell the difference between someone who comes up to me at an event and they ask me a question, and right away that question tells me that they're not really doing anything. And the real motivation for them saying that, and I know you're shaking your head too, Amy, because we've all dealt with this, is that it's comical at times, right? Where they'll come up and they're really just wanting to get validation, and they want to feel important, and they want to feel like they know what they're talking about because maybe in their circles they've felt and dealt with that and been the leader or the authority. And so they want to feel that way again. And so they think they can be smart to try to figure something out about this industry or this business, although they may come from even a successful professional background where they're used to being the boss, right? And so they want that validation here, and they want that street cred here before they've really earned it. Because in this industry, it's like starting all over again, right? And some people can't submit their egos there to do that. And because of that, they ask me a question that I know, because I've done the work, I know they wouldn't be asking that question if they had done the work. Because it's normally a simpler question about things that go, well, if you were doing that, you would know not to even ask that. And then there's the other person who comes up to me and asks me a question that I know, and this is how we identify leaders, is that they're doing the work and they're asking questions that are like, oh, wow. Oh, okay. So what's the next thing? Like, I'm doing this and this, but what about this thing? And you're like, you would only know that by doing it, right? And so it's about getting in the middle of it and doing it in order to understand some of the next steps. So for those of you who may be sitting back and wondering, you know, let me figure all this out and let me learn a little more before I really engage myself or do some blog posts, that is the surefire recipe for disaster. So I just want to kind of turn it over to you, Amy, and see if you've got any thoughts on that as well. I sense you've got a few on that, so I've been rambling for a while.
Yeah, well, you know, it's like the focus thing. It just keeps coming back to the focus thing. And that's, I think that, you know, I talk about this a lot, but it's the biggest thing that has people not succeed. So if you want to market on Instagram, then you better be learning something new about Instagram every day and become a master at it. And that goes for any marketing strategy. And it also goes for whatever niche you're in. So it's about being focused. And so, like, what I recommend is really figuring out something that you're truly passionate about and focusing on that, whether, you know, as far as your marketing strategy and as far as your niche. And I'm not saying that just because you're passionate about something means that everything about what you do is awesome and you love doing it. I mean, I love blogging and I love blogging about CrossFit, but I have to do stuff like syndicate blog posts and do stuff that's not like for joy about it. It's just part of what I have to do to be successful, right? So there's a lot of pieces to the equation, but if you figure out something that you're passionate about, like, you know, your marketing strategy, for me it's blogging and videos, and, you know, and then you're, you know, something that you would like, you know, if you're going to blog about something that you actually enjoy, something that you're, you know, participating in your life, something that, you know, you're never going to run out of content to blog about, because it's not about sitting there and trying to think about, oh God, I got to come up with something to blog about. If you're truly passionate about something and you're immersed in it, you will be coming up with content without even trying. You'll have more content than you have days to blog, because, you know, because you're constantly immersed in your niche and you're inspired and you're having breakthroughs and you're learning stuff. So you know, my recommendation is pick something that you're passionate about, and know that just because it's something that you're passionate about, it doesn't mean that you're always going to love everything that you have to do. You know what I mean? Like I blog every day about CrossFit, and sometimes it's 11 o'clock at night, and really I just want to go to bed. But I said I'm going to do a blog post, so I do my blog post even though I'd rather go to bed. That's what I was talking about earlier when I talk about the compromises and the investments that we make in order to have that freedom that 99% of people won't ever have. You know, being a single mother, I'm busy. Chris knows, even today, like, it's the last week of school. I got stuff going on at the school. Then we got soccer tryouts. Like, I don't have time to work a lot on some days, on a lot of days. And so I have to work into like late into the night after my kids go to bed. And then, you know, I have to get up early to get them to school. So I don't get a lot of sleep. And that's just a compromise that I make because I want to be with my kids and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So I think that's a big piece of it too. Are you willing to do whatever it takes? And are you, like Chris said earlier, are you being honest with yourself? Are you doing what it takes, or are you like saying that you're working and really you're reading your Facebook stream? Chris, you know, I think it would be powerful for you to share what you shared with me a couple days ago about Matt's big breakthrough that he recently had. Do you know what I'm talking about? You're muted.
If you're going to check the chat, I actually was ready to bring him on out. I just wanted to clear it with you real quick.
Oh.
Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I would actually love to like bring him out and have him personally share and have us have a chance.
That I didn't even see the chat, and I was just thinking about him when you were talking and about what you shared. It's like, you know, you were like, it took you this long to figure this out, but I think it's just, anyway, I don't know if that's even what he's going to share.
You know, I mean, great minds think alike, right?
Absolutely. Our minds always think alike, great or not.
That's right. I like to hold the belief that it is great.
Yeah.
But, you know. So yeah, what I'm going to do, guys, is Matt will be jumping on here any second. Is I'm going to bring on Matt Dillingham. You guys all know and love Matt, and Matt is someone that I do really respect for being able to have the courage to step out and proclaim where he's at, what he wants, and then also when he has the humility and the humbleness to be able to admit, as a leader does, when they learn things and go, hey, I may have looked at something in a way that didn't serve myself or the team very well, but now I understand even better and I can serve even better now as I'm growing. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Matt's got something to share. I'm gonna let him share that. I know he's gonna be popping on here in a second. But Matt, if you would just hurry up and get on already, so I don't have to keep talking faster.
Chris, I got my vitamin E stick. It's different than Irina's, but it's better than what I was doing before.
Okay.
I'm completely addicted to it.
She's clapping right now. She heard you. She's like, yay. Yes. Matt, hurry up, damn it.
Here he comes.
There we go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the ever so infamous Matthew Dillingham with facial hair. Holy crap, I didn't expect
Is that a surprise now? Like, everyone was like, oh my god, you have facial hair. I'm like, yeah. Blame the girlfriend. Actually, don't blame her. You can thank her. So.
Oh, I knew the moment I saw it, I knew exactly who was the catalyst behind that.
I like facial hair.
Thank you, Amy. Only because of you. Not my girlfriend. Only because of you.
Matt, before you share what you want to share, I just want to say, because, it was spoken about in the comments, when I was listening to that oath yesterday, like that, it's just such a I just would love if you would just share a little bit about what that was like, taking an oath like that, if you don't mind.
Oh, God. I think I made take the oath twice. Like, not to give you a long story short, when I joined the Marine Corps, it was a very turbulent time where I'd been kicked out of my mom's house, had a flying with her, cussed at her, I was looking at it to go to school. So each step of the way that I was doing it, taking the oath, I was scared the entire time leading up to boot camp and crying about the experience. But I remember taking the oath and standing there and then making raise your right hand, and you're like, holy shit, this is like real, like this is not a joke. And like I remember, at least with the Marines, they would tell stories of people who were already in boot camp, and because they lied about something, they would call them to the office and they got sent home. And it's like, and in at least with the Marine Corps, the boot camp, to be there like halfway through all that stuff and then to get called out, you go through so much crap down there and you're treated like complete shit the entire time. So, but taking that oath for me at the time was scary. I know that, and it was like scary at the same time, kind of like just an adrenaline rush. Like I didn't know what I was doing at that point. Like really getting into like the possibility of being deployed and God knows what could happen to me going overseas. Luckily, that never happened. So, but taking that oath is definitely an experience where like this is going down. This is real. It's not a joke. So.
Yeah. Well, I have so much respect for you.
Thank you.
I mean, I did anyway, but I experienced that yesterday for like the 4th or 5th time because I do that race every year, and each time it gets more intense for me. It's just such a powerful thing. It's such a huge commitment. I mean, imagine if we had that kind of commitment to other stuff in our lives. What would be possible? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
most people don't. The mindsets, the messaging and the mindset they have, it just causes them to fail in anything, So.
So Matt, you called me. You sent me a text about a week ago, and
God.
I mean, I will forego the shenanigans of how hilarious I at first reacted to this text, because I was like, huh? Really? Did I miss something?
You know what? Why are you gonna do this to me? Our last hangout, to be quoted forever, to the other time, I'm like, this guy was stupid. He knew this already.
No,
Look
it
at
wasn't.
him.
I don't. You know, it's funny because I actually have to tell my realization that you actually helped me with as well from it, because after we got off the phone and had your conversation where we did about like some of the things, you were like, oh yeah, you know, like I kind of knew that, but then now I really know it. And you know, you kind of get it on one level, but you kind of like sometimes you got to kind of like embody it and be like, you know, that's really what this is. And so I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, as you could share it, but you know, it's like I was talking with Irene afterwards, and we were just kind of chatting about like the thought of it, and I realized that at times some things I take for granted about, you know, when people are rising up as leaders like yourself, it is like some things that fill in the gaps that sometimes still need to be said and that people need to hear. And so with, you know, with that, I was like, wow, you know, I'm really glad that, you know, these things are coming together, because, you know, ultimately this thing is such a big thing to me that I realize that you're like at a point where now you're going to really start taking off. And it may not necessarily show like that day, Matt, like to me, ultimately you were a leader already, but that day you became a leader, like in another sense. And because it's something where I'm not going to, once again, everyone's probably like, well, you just tell us already. But you know, I mean, hey, I tell through stories, right? I mean, it's what I do. So,
Yeah.
you know, and then Matt said to me, no, I'm kidding. So, go ahead, man. Just share like what you said to me in the text, and that you called me, and then I was like, really? So,
But I was like, what was I doing? I was at work, and I don't know what happened to me. It was just like a weird download. I was sitting there because I'm in the process of mastering storytelling, which Mr. Russia, I know you've seen in my videos because you watch me, but you don't say anything, and then you tell me like a week later, wow, that video you posted, 2 weeks ago. I was like, yeah, that one. So, anyways, I know this.
But did
So,
you hear what he said, though? I have to point this out. He's in the process of mastering storytelling. You know, there's a lot of people that have learned about storytelling or have gone through Chris's training about storytelling that are not in the process of mastering storytelling. So I just want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
and weren't you listening to something or watching something while this was all happening or occurring?
Listening to these hangouts because normally I'm asleep. It's like after 12. Okay. These hangouts have a lot of value. Now I've been in Pioneer for 2 years. It's funny. 2006. I went off to Paris Island May 22nd, and then 2013. Was that like 7 years later or whatever? I joined Power Network. Just realized that tonight. So, anyways, I don't know. I got this realization from a story you talked about at an event you had, and another thing you said, how people get into this industry to come from having massive success, and they get this thing and they screwed up. And I tried to communicate communicate this to my team last week on our hangout, that my realization, I sat there at work and I went, "Are you fucking shitting me?" I was like, "What?" So I'm sitting there at work, and I'm like, so I said, so let me get this straight. The whole MLM niche, in order to be built, is really about developing the skill to relate and sell to people, and to relate and sell to people yourself and your vision. Basically, developing people skills instead of relating to people just to tell them about a product and push it on them, and then be like, all right, you're done. Let me push this product on you, and then this one. And you magically wrote back, yes. I'm like, this guy. But people think it's a tactics and strategy, which partially it is. And then I continue to unite people in a movement or a goal that's bigger than themselves. And I wrote, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Pardon the F-bombs. But like...
It's totally okay.
But lesser importance, and you said the lesser importance, those happen easily once you know how to relate. And my realization was, and Aaron Raskin says, I've heard him say this, God knows how many times, your product is not your product. Your product is your people. And it just happened in that moment. I was like, oh, that's what I've been screwing up. I've been focusing so much on the tactics, on the strategy of, let me do this to get them in. I can market this way or that way. Let me market with, pain, aspiration, solutions, all that stuff, instead of saying, I've been here and it sucked. I hated it. I went through it. If you've been there where I've been, I know what it's like, and I can relate to that, and I can help you. And here's how I did it. Find out how. You can give a little story, but put your passion, the intensity, the fact that you give a damn about these people and you're trying to help them, and saying, this is what I did, I made it through here, but more about it later, and then find out how I did this. Here's your ebook, and then telling your story through that and saying, this is what I went through, because you're selling them on you. And then once you get them in, once they become part of your team, it's then building them up. It's not selling them the top producer formula, not getting them on the blogs, not getting them on the mass influence formula. It's getting them to be able to, this will be good, to empower them, give them a skill, to help them create a revolution. They'll allow them to unleash the powers from within, allow them to rise together as one, and then fight the forces of evil later on in life.
Oh, that's so cute.
Shut up! You like it. Well, that's what it's about. I just realized, it's about relating to these people and saying, I know where you are. I've been there. Here's how I did it. Come with me on this journey, and we'll do this together, and I'll lift you up. What is that you want? Let's do that. Let's create that. It's that simple. It's not this create a capture page, here's a follow-up sequence, here's stuff. Yes, that's necessary. But what really, at least with what we do, it's relating to them before they get in, so they're sold on you, versus here's the system, I can guarantee this, and then they're just screwed, which is what happens in the affiliate world. I'm a lot of affiliate guys list, and there's a new product, and there's a new product coming out every damn week with a new WordPress plugin every week. And no one succeeds because they're all out there just to suck money out of you. Unlike with us, we try to do it here, and some people are real good at bringing people in. But I've noticed is that at events too, certain people I see with red lanyards, I have yet to see them with a team. I've seen few people in Empower Networks with an actual team of people who are there running together, who are like united by a cause, versus with certain people, they produce, they've made a lot of money, but they have like no one on there on their team. Now I know why. From what Chris has taught. This is why Chris has always had me and everyone else fall into the end of time when our lives have sucked. We keep coming back because he knows how to keep us in by giving us what we need to hear and helping us out, because he actually gives a shit. Truly. I remember one time I complained to you about my job, and you're like, well, Matt, have you used what's in the top producer formula? Why don't you do that? And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I should do that. I do what I need to hear. It's the truth. And I was like, dude, this guy does not care. He cares about me a lot, So, long story short, it's about the people, and then from there, it's about getting your message down, and then just from there, like, the tactics kind of like halfway or take care of themselves. I've realized for me right now, I'm going to be more passionate in my videos when I tell a story, mastering a process, leveraging any story I can use, and saying like this is what I've done. And true story, like the videos I've done on my military blog, when I've just gone in on blog posts and just told my story and been passionate, those get the most likes, people comment, and people reshare that stuff. Because I put out, and Chris said it's like last week or so, like 2 weeks ago, you said people are afraid to talk about their vision, where they want to go. I did that in one video. I said, look, guys, we're veterans. It sucks being us because we're treated like damaged goods, like we're second class, like we're used whores, blah, blah, blah. It's time for a change. This is what I'm going to create. I have a team of veterans. 10 of them are going to be six-figure earners. I'm another 10 six-figure earners on my team. This is what we're doing. Right with me. Let's do the damn thing and change the world. And people like that. Did anyone sign up? No, but it got reshared. People commented. They loved it. They liked what I was doing, and they told me, keep going, keep up the good work, son. We like the value.
Well, I
Not
mean, that's the difference between a promotion and marketing and campaigning is that, you got to add value more than once. And they're like, keep it up, we like the value. And people get there in their time. And so all you've got to do is keep doing that. And they need to know if you're consistent with that message. Because it's not so much as it is selling people on you, but it's selling people on your vision that also encapsulates them, that includes them. And so, that's what you did. And so you just got to keep doing that and get that in front of more eyeballs. So I applaud you, man. It's inspiring to hear that and know that you really got that, because fundamentally what seems to be wrong with this industry, just like you said, is people are kind of like jumping around for like the strategy. And you know what? Yeah, partially true. You need one. But if you don't have the message to back it up with, what are you doing? And so I think that it was a big shift for you, and like I could tell in your voice, when you really got it, you were like, oh my god.
And the thing is, every time I work with you, at some point I get a breakthrough, and then it always causes me to stop and then redo my marketing. So it's kind of like I keep going, I stop, slow down a little bit, kind of redo, and then I pick up speed again. But I always change it where it's like, now it makes sense. I have a message, figure it out, and focus on it, getting out through blogs, video, or PPC, whatever. But keeping the message and just keeping the message the same, and really caring about people. Like, it makes sense.
Here's the other thing about it. You've probably heard me say this before as well, but like the reason that you were like how you were talking about how at the event how you see people that have the red lanyards that have made money but they don't have a team, because when you bring people in based on your vision and help them get in touch with their vision, as opposed to bringing people in based on desperation and quick money and what's in it for me, it's a completely different thing. And the people that come in, like maybe you didn't bring in anyone that day when you talked about your vision, but if you keep doing that, the people that do join you you will help them get in touch with their vision. You give them permission to do that by sharing yours. So when they join you, they're not going anywhere. As opposed to trying to bring people in based on desperation. Like, here's this thing, it's going to make you money. It's going to fall out of the sky when you get this system, It's a completely different type of person that you're bringing in, and you're bringing them in. So, like, to use myself as an example, like, I've been completely connected to my vision since the beginning of being home with my kids, and it's because of that I've never quit. If somebody comes in because they just need to pay some bills, like, they're either going to make the money to pay their bills or they're not, and if they don't, they're gone. Like, for me, I didn't pay my bills in the beginning. I didn't make any money for a long time, but I stuck with my vision, and that's what kept me in. Does that make sense? So what you're doing is it's so much more powerful than knowing all the tactics and trying to just do all this stuff to try to get people in, because they're not going to stay, just like you said, just like you've witnessed, So it's so powerful. I love what you're doing, and keep doing it.
I will. It's just because I try to commit this to my team, not to drag us on. Like, I don't know, Max, you're watching, but like, one of the things I've learned through this
Watching.
is good. One of the things I've learned is that for me, I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible, because I know what happens at the events is we'll go to the event, we'll be like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and then something happens where we get distracted, and then we go, well, we're gonna use this and tack on this, and then we're gonna do this, tack on this. Well, that didn't work. Well, let's do this, tack on this, and tack on this, and tack on this. And we end up making it so damn complicated. And I've noticed this with like other people. I'm like, stop. Let me just go with my gut, listen to that, and say, just master the process of storytelling. Just do that as if your life depended on it, and you'll do it. And I believe that I will, and I am in the process. I have a timeline. My girlfriend's going to Puerto Rico in November, and I have to be free. I have to go on that trip because my vacation time for this next event is about to be used up. After that, there's like 3 more events. I have to get there, and I'm going to. So I'm, going to do this. But like, we just get bombarded. We get cut off, and notice we keep trying to do different things. I'm like, if we just stuck to one thing and just, got people to the message and mastered that, I think we'd be fine instead of just trying to try this, then let's try this, and this angle, mix this. It's like all the successful people that have done this and continue to do this do like one or two things, and that's it. That's all they do. The bitch part that happens is when you're not where you want to be and on the results, you stop, you lose focus, and then you end up going off the path when really all this is doing the same thing over again and changing it up a little bit, but you don't go off from the main thing. You do one thing. That's all it is in simplicity. And if we did that, I think all of our lives would be just simpler. I won't say easier.
Simpler. Isn't it funny the stories we tell ourselves? I couldn't help it. No, I mean, Matt, how did you like that story I told earlier about, working for my dad growing up and the analogy that I taught through that story?
That was good. I mean, it made sense of how you don't know it, you don't understand it, but you do it anyway. Like, I think every time you taught me something, I've taken action even though I don't really get it. But I'm like, you know what? I understand it anyway, so I'm just going to freaking do it. But, like, you have to just do it because the only way you're going to really know it if you actually go forward and just do it. You just do it. And when you do it, you have more confidence about what doesn't work, what works, and ultimately you have more confidence in your abilities and what you can do, and you'll keep going forward.
And you see, Matt is actually asking me intelligent questions now. That's how I know he's doing it.
Like, Chris, I've done this. How about this? I don't know. Try it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, shit. I come back. Yeah, it didn't work out so well. So, I mean, I'm going to keep trying, but anything else, So.
I just thought this was, it was so cool and so funny, but at the same time, it was like so like, wow, yeah, like that shift is like, you shifted from like, that in that moment, it's like what I like to talk about when I talk about value sets, and Matt, you know what I'm talking about, when you shift from like focusing on what you don't want and attempting to move away from what you don't want versus moving towards what you do want. And in that moment, you kind of shifted over to that other side of towards what you do want because you realize you're like, okay, I got what I don't want now. Okay, and now I know what to focus upon. So, it was really cool to see that. I mean, it was like funny. Like at first, I was kind of like, I've been saying that shit for a long time.
No, I called you, and the first thing in your mouth was, hope you're crying right now because we were making a good story. I'm like, no, I'm not crying, but hold on, let me go downstairs real quick. Are you kidding me? And you know what's messed up? I swear I've heard this before. I've heard one piece of the puzzle years ago. I was doing like prepaid legal and stuff. It's like, tell your story. And then people said, it's a people business. I'm like, all right, I get it. Then I got the story piece from you. And then finally, after being beaten the head with your product is your people, it just hit me, and I went, I don't know what to say. I was like, what? It's just relating to people. I don't want friends to influence people, but Dale Carnegie. This is why people screwed up, because they're trying to sell a product, and then it's not it. Like, that's why I got the guy, Brian, that found me in the blog. Like, he called me up, found a blog, this is when I need the blog daily. He found me on a blog post I did 2 or 3 months ago on veteran entrepreneurship. Liked it, said, dude, let's connect. We talked on the phone, and he told me a story. He said, now what's your story? And I said, here's my story. I did it the way we rehearsed it, Chris, like from the beginning, the struggles, the hard-headedness I have, the BK I had to declare, all the stuff. I told him the success I've had and the growth I've had. He goes, wow, that was a powerful story. That was the true test of me telling to someone, because I'm so much better at, if I can talk to you on a video or something, you'll feel it, versus if I had to write it on a copy or something. It was the first time I actually told my story to someone, and they were like, whoa. He bought me. He bought the struggle. He bought the realization. It helped that he was an entrepreneur too, but that was the first like good feedback about it. And so right now he's gonna join as like a customer with me and all this other stuff. And so I'm the top producer package. And so look, man, get with me. I can help you out with your business. Be my teammate. Access to NLM and stuff. So the power of just being able to relate. And I see it now. It's like I'm actually wanting him to sign up to help him in his business, what he wants to do. And I can see it helping him and his team out. I know that with us working together and have a new business partner using power, and God knows where that will go. And actually care. All because I've had this realization.
I'm going to repeat something that I sent you in the text message when you really got this, because it's relevant again now. Welcome to the arena, Matt. You have officially begun.
Yeah.
Because it really is a case of understanding that, you know, when you shift from that, I got to figure this out only for myself, and your vision now starts to encompass others, then you're moved by something different. You know, people always talk about, like, you know, the leader moves the people, but what moves the leader? The vision moves the leader. And this is just so cool to see that, you know, it's funny how the biggest realizations, to me, I didn't think my story of understanding that I needed to be 100% real and authentic rather than trying to copy somebody's copywriting lines, and realizing that that was the most important lesson I could ever learn for my life and my business. I thought that would have been the most boring story to ever tell anybody, and people would be like, oh, cute, okay, whatever, and that was it. And I was like, but screw it, I'm doing it anyway. And what I found was a reaction from so many people I never thought I would have, and a response from people who I was marketing to that I never thought was possible from that. And there's something about whatever that lesson is, in whatever way, that because it's yours and it's real, there's magic in it. There's magic in it. You know, I think that, and I was explaining to Matt about this, I was talking to him about how, you know, telling your story should be a prerequisite before, you know, anything else. And it's funny, that's the first thing we would teach people in our traditional network marketing company when we had our weekly meetings up in Alaska. We were like, look, you need to get down your 30-second, you know, thing. And, like, you know, just a quick, like, here's who you are. And that was like the beginning of the story stuff for me, right? Just kind of understanding story elements. And so it's evolved into this thing where I realized that, you know, the story is a strategy to strategies. It's like, you know, everyone's like, well, give me the magic close and give me the magic copywriting line and give me the thing I need to say on Instagram, or what do I say to people on Facebook or whatever. Tell me what to say. And that's like car sales to me, like used car sales, where I went into the dealership at 19 when I was attempting to sell cars for a summer and realized I could not do it because I'd walk into my sales manager and say, hey, they said this, and he's like, tell them this. And I'm like, but I don't even believe that. And he's like, no, you say it like this and say it exactly like this and it'll work. And I was like, fuck you. You know, like, I wasn't going to do it. And so I walked out of the dealership, true story. And so I realized that it was about, you know, being real about stuff. And, you know, it took me a long time to get there, you know. But I like forgot about that when I got into online marketing. And so what I tell people is, you know, if you understand your personal journey and how to connect with people, you know, people are like, oh, wait a second, you're not this cool person that has this super secret strategy that you're not going to share with anybody but me. Yeah, right. You're actually a person that's like real like me and has been through similar things I've been through and knows what it's like and is willing to help me out. Holy crap. And look what it created for Matt. Matt connected with someone who was like him, that now he genuinely wants to help out and hopes that in any way he can help him, he can. And the cool part is growing as a leader, you start to develop and implement systems that can actually facilitate that type of stuff automatically for people. Just the next level for you, Matt. And cool stuff like, you know, how to create training for people. And so that happens naturally after you understand that principle, but a lot of people don't get that principle because they can't get out of their own way thinking it's always about them, right? It's the same people that come up to me at events and are like, they ask me dumb questions and I'm like, oh, they're obviously not working. You know, they're obviously not doing this. So, it's funny, I was reading over the weekend. I actually spent Memorial Day reading, because I had to like take a break from actually doing a bunch of work. I read a book that was actually trademarked by these Hollywood script writers called Story Selling. They actually own the trademark on story selling. Pissed me off for two reasons. One, because I wanted that, right? Two, because it was the most bullshit book on how to market yourself in a story and branding that I've ever seen in my life, and they own the trademark, and it pisses me off. I was telling Irene yesterday as I was reading like 3/4 of the way through it, and I'm like, this is the biggest waste of time I've had in a long time. Like, I don't like to waste time. This is almost like a waste of time. And at the same time, I was like, all right, well, now I know that the people who are considered at the pinnacle, that are like mentored by Dan Kennedy, you know, these great copywriters, and have these brand themes that have helped all these people do all these things, can't even write a freaking book to be clear enough to explain a story outline. And I was like, wow, because they're like talking about how you got to be so great and all these things that I teach people, like build a bridge and get the hell over yourself, right? And like how to create these narratives that are like how to bend the truth. And I'm like, whoa, like really, you know? And I look at that and I'm looking at Irene and I'm like, what I have and what I have figured out that is so effective that works is like light years ahead of this bullshit. And those people have sold a lot of books. And so the reason I'm telling you this, I honestly don't know the full real reason, but it felt
How
like
old
it.
is that book? I'm curious.
What's that?
When was that book published?
2010.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They had some good points, and they talk about the same age-old thing of like 7 storylines, you know, or 7 plots ever, which is like very well known. And I was like, tell me something I don't know, you know, but here's what I know works for a personal person who, you know, needs to tell a story. And there's like, they didn't even get clear and specific on the things that I've got down clear that I know have made a huge difference, because when I didn't have them, it didn't work. And they don't even have that. So maybe they're like holding back because they're in this fear-based mentality of like, well, buy my book, and then, you know, like after that you can hire me and I'll teach you all this stuff. You know, it's kind of like, what the heck, you know? That's my own personal rant. And I'm sure they're great, you know, in a lot of ways, and probably know how to make things happen because they do have a lot of success in branding car salesman shows and, you know, BS like that. So my personal rant. However, you know, this stuff is important to understand that, you know, if you understand this, you can go and apply all of this to all of those strategies that you learn. You see, there's a bigger part of this that a lot of you have seen me draw my spiral staircase analogy, where I talk about, you know, you have to have the why, the bottom, and then you've got to have like the know-how, which is literally like knowing how to like log into your blog and how to, you know, go online and log into your email autoresponder, and, you know, the know-how, how to operate, right? Operating skills. And then there is the strategy, which is like your daily operation of like what you're actually doing, your plan of action, and what method are you using? Are you going and posting and blogging and posting it on social media sites, or are you buying traffic? Whatever it is, that's your strategy. And then the next part is your story. And you see, I do it that way because what I've seen is when people only do the first 3, they can never build that empire. They can never build that thing that they really want to do, and it continues to fall down. It's house of cards because it's not rooted in anything that has a real vision and a purpose behind it that lasts, that sustains. You can find the next sucker every day if you want, and continue to work like a dog and continue to have to screw people over or hype people into something that makes them think that something outside of them is actually going to work for them. But if you want something that sustains, That's a different thing. And as human beings, we are wired to look at things from a story perspective. We draw the own pictures in our mind to put together in our head what happened to that person as they tell us their story, and also compare our own story to it to see how much we can actually relate with that person. And if you can't relate with that person, then there's no way they're ever going to stick around for a long term, because they'll notice that your promise is empty. So your story is the glue that holds people around you and your organizations together. And the real magic is when you teach people to be able to do the same. And everyone has a unique message and a unique story that ties into a bigger vision greater than themselves. And that's how organizations thrive. So that's why I say storytelling is so important, because it's ultimately the way our brains are wired to remember information. To, like, literally we have to associate a story of someone to know whether or not they're a threat. Like, literally on a brain survival level of, like, survival is like we think of our enemy and think about the things they've done, and we know that, okay, they've done this, they're probably going to do this to me. And you see someone who can help you, and you see the things they've done for other people, and you go, they're probably going to do that, have the ability to do that with me. And so when someone tells you where they've came from, and you're like, wow, I can do that too. I've been there. And this person says, but I've discovered this. And you go, ooh, what have you discovered? I want to know, because you had my problems. And that's about connecting. It's a common bond. Just like Matt has friends that are, in the Marines that he'll probably talk to and keep in touch with for the rest of his life because of those experiences, And now he's creating another team. So I just want to acknowledge you, Matt. Like, we wouldn't have brought you on here if we didn't feel like it was totally appropriate, that you had something of value to add to people. And I don't think you realize how much your realization that you told tonight, and this story in particular, because it is a good story, I think you should really actually look at that as a particular story, right?
Yeah.
That it really is helping a lot of people, and I think you'll find that out. I think so.
Man. I'm still blown away by this. Then I wake up like, really? It's all it is?
I mean, personally, you guys got to realize, like, my first reaction, he was like, that's what this is, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, you just got this? I've been saying this. But
it's where my mind was focused. I was focused on a tactic and hoping that would reel someone in. Like, that's where everyone's mind is. It's the strategy. Get leads off Instagram, do this. Get a lead, get a strategy in, get them in the system. When, and it works, but that's not what keeps people around, man. It's getting to that person. Even if you do that, you really have to care and say, look, I'm here for you. Here's what I've done, and putting your message out there to bring them in that way. And that's what gets you the right people versus just, it's your message that matters the most.
So let's facilitate very quickly a mental walkthrough of this so that people can actually construct this for themselves as well in terms of a strategy to use. And let's just take your analogy, right? So let's say that, Matt, you now have dialed in your messaging to where you now know how to reach out to the audience that you want to and connect with them, because you have a story of what you've been through. And you know how to set the right context from the beginning, like we teach, and go into your struggles of what you did there, and then ultimately illustrate the solutions of what you've been through that, and then be able to convert that. So let's just quickly take this the first step for people and say, okay, now I'm assuming they can figure out how to post something on Facebook. I'm assuming you got that figured out. I'm assuming you could go and make a video and upload it to YouTube. I'm assuming you know how to do that. I'm assuming you in particular know how to do that in a way that's pretty ninja and have YouTube ads and all that stuff happening that most people don't know yet. But now you know what to say, and especially what to preface in your first 3 to 5 seconds when you need to capture somebody's attention in order to be relevant and relate with them. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
So could it be possible that you may learn a way to log into Instagram and use that same thing about being able to set context and allude to your story of struggle in some way with a photo or an image or a quote or something in the same way? And maybe you may also be able to do that on LinkedIn and do a post about that, even if it's just the first part of setting your context that hooks somebody into going, I want to read more about that. And I'm assuming that maybe because now you know this story stuff and how to set your context and get people to pay attention to you, and you in particular, and the people that would actually like you and resonate with you, you might be able to go do that on Pinterest, possibly, maybe, right? Or maybe it's that you can use Twitter in some weird way I'm not even sure of to do the same thing. And maybe it's that you can do that in a blog post that you can put in all of these places, or take screenshots of and put on Instagram, or take screenshots of and put on Pinterest, or repost on LinkedIn or Facebook, or whatever the case may be. And now all of a sudden you have this strategy that can work getting in front of somebody in any type of way, on any social media site, in any medium, because you understand the messaging. Am I wrong?
No, sir, you are not.
Okay. So could this be that learning how to relate with people and get over yourself and tell where you've been and why you are now where you're at is so crucially important that if you don't have that, all of those other little hypey promises and claims and very well crafted one-liners probably don't work as well as this?
Mm-hmm.
But yet everyone's searching for the strategy. Interesting. So this means you can now take this stuff into any strategy, and barring that there's some magical, mystical way to post something on these sites that gets you 10 times more traffic right away, which there possibly could be, you now understand how to take your messaging into anything and go figure that out. Am I right? So
Yes.
why the fuck does everybody have to go buy a course on every single thing in the world to go learn how to do it? On the next Facebook thing, on how to use bots for Instagram, or how to do this stupid thing on Pinterest using automated technology that somehow grabs all the people that you've ever wanted and will ever want to get in front of your little spammy message.
For 6 months until the next thing comes along.
And then the social media platforms figure out what you're doing, and then they change the rules. And then you have no strategy, and you have to start over again. Kind of like I had to with SEO when Google changed the rules. Speaking from experience here again. So,
Boom.
any thoughts on that, Matt?
No, I'm just tired, man. I need to like download all this stuff. We're sleeping right now.
I know you're on the East Coast, so it's like you're going on 1 o'clock here. So we'll let you go, man. But I really appreciate you stepping out and humbling yourself and being able to share that with everyone, so people could hear it and understand that, you know, this is an important part. So, and I just want to acknowledge you that, you know, I see the difference in you. It's even in your tone of voice and the way that you're speaking with authority on this stuff. And I'm confident that we're going to see a lot of cool things coming from you soon. So appreciate you being out here, man. We'll let you get
Thanks
started.
for having me on.
Matt. You're awesome.
Thanks,
We
Amy.
love
Thanks,
you.
guys. Thanks for having me on. Like, I really appreciate, like, you know, the show that with what we do, it's not so much about producing and getting results, which part of it is from BTC, but really showing the growth the growth and change. Back when Crystal was on a hangout last year, whatever, and her change and now how things are, and it's really about bringing up the people. So again, thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We love you.
All right, guys.
All right, man. Have a good night. So there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Dillingham. Just checking the comments right now. And appreciate everyone for listening. So we're nearing the 2-hour mark. We've got about 15 minutes. So I know that was quite a bit of rant and quite a few F-bombs. Felt important sometimes to make the point. For those of you that, have trouble with the language, I apologize. But I do feel that, that really makes a point sometimes, and eloquated in ways that no other word can. So if that's what it takes to get my message across every time, I only think it's detrimental when someone uses it all the time too much and devalues those words. So that's my defense.
Those precious words.
Those precious F-bombs.
Don't devalue those words.
And so, with that, you sat back and listened to a lot of that, Amy. So, any other thoughts?
Well, I think, one of the big key points that Matt talked about was about service, and when you really come from a place of service and serving others, I mean, that's one of the biggest pieces of leadership that I think gets overlooked sometimes, because people, again, there's a lot of people that they learn how to produce, and they think that means they're a leader because they're sponsoring people or, selling people stuff or whatever they're doing, but they're not coming from a place of service. And so I love that he touched on that, and that he's really shifted that for himself, because I know that now that he's done that, we're going to see a whole other level of success come from that. That's what it's all about. It's so much more fulfilling to live life that way, than to have it all be all about you. And, it's just, it's a really amazing way to leave your legacy. So I'm happy for you, Matt, if you're still listening. And yeah, I think it's a huge breakthrough. And I know, that being said, I know that there's people who, are in a place of dire straits, and they just got to figure out a way to make some money because that's what they need right now to pay their bills. And it's hard for somebody in that place to think about serving other people. Like Matt right now is about helping this new person get what he wants. And sometimes it's hard to think that way when you're in a place yourself where you're not even getting what you need right now. So I totally honor that and understand that. But I also know, I think it was Zig Ziglar that said it best: when you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want too. So it's a byproduct. So anyway, I just want to say thanks again to Matt, because it was an awesome illustration. And hopefully his breakthrough has caused a lot of other breakthroughs. If anyone else has had a breakthrough from listening to Matt, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. That's the beauty of the mastermind, is one person's breakthrough can create a ripple effect for everybody else. And I've had some breakthroughs tonight just listening to him. So it's awesome. It's also an amazing reminder about why we're here when we see somebody on our team have any kind of a breakthrough. It's like that's why we're here, so
it makes it worth it.
Yeah. And we're a family. This is a mastermind. That's what this is about. This is about lifting each other up and helping each other break through and expand, evolve, and serve and succeed. And so it was just a beautiful demonstration tonight of that in action, happening right before your eyes. And it's a good validation for what we do. So.
Well, I'm pretty convinced that Matt will probably be one of those 10 six-figure earners.
Oh yeah.
In the team.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure. Mm-hmm. And so the other question is, who's the other 9?
Mm-hmm. And that being said, we've seen six-figure earners come and go who did exactly what he talked about. They learned strategies to make a lot of money, but they didn't have anybody stick around because they weren't relating to people. They weren't being a stand for other people's success. It was just about strategies, and some of them aren't even like really ethical strategies. And so, yes, people can make a lot of money doing that, but it's not sustainable income. And I can't imagine, I don't know firsthand, but I can't imagine it would be a very fulfilling way to live life, either. So I think, doing it the way Matt's doing it is a lot more fulfilling, and making a difference for others, and lifting up others while you are lifting yourself up at the same time and creating sustainable success for all. So, good stuff. And yes, Max, breakthroughs happen.
We're co-creators here.
Mm-hmm.
And that means we're all co-creating this. And it may be me and Amy here on the talk right now, but you all are here with us. And, from time to time, we will bring you guys on. And you start producing results, definitely having you on, especially when you have something as powerful as what happened with Matt. And there will be more. And stick around because it's going to get exciting real soon. Real soon.
We might even end early tonight, Chris.
I think so.
I think that would be a really fun surprise for everyone.
Oh, yeah. Especially for those on the East Coast, they're like, oh my God, please. This is a volunteer organization. It's kind of like a church in a lot of ways. We can't write memos and expect you guys all to get the memo and then go do something. It's like a church. It's a volunteer organization. And you're not forced to be here, but the amazing things we can create together, it's really worth it to be here. So, yeah, I'm in a interesting mood tonight. Very introspective. And, just always, I'm pleasantly surprised by Matt's story. And I think, Matt, I know you're not listening because you're like in bed now, but that's a powerful one to tell quite a bit. And I probably will repeat that one quite a bit as well. It's a good one. And use it as
we can all blog about it.
It's true.
Yep.
And I bet you he'd love that because that really puts him in a place of like, yep, that's me.
Well, not only that, but he's serving. By sharing his story, he has served everybody, helped people have breakthroughs, given people something to think about, given people something to blog about. It's another form of service. And so it's that ripple effect, which I know would also make him happy.
And yeah. For those of you who are here for the first time tonight, this is a little bit of a different hangout than what we normally have. And we go with the energy. So it's an interesting place, but I'm sure by now you've watched and you've listened and you realize that this is kind of a unique, special place. And it's not for everybody. It's for people who want to lead, people who want to be a part of something significant. And then we're not going to let you down or lead you astray. So if you're here for the first time and someone invited you here, and you clicked on this link tonight, you have the ability to join with us. You have the ability to click that link below in the video. It says join the Next Level Mastermind. You'll want to tell your sponsor, the person that brought you here, referred you here, that you may have gotten an email from or clicked on a link in Facebook from, and that'll show up in your back office when you get started, is you'll be able to see who that is and message them and let them know that you want to get inside the mastermind with the team site with all the extra training and the training on telling stories and the training on all the other stuff we have in there as well. And we would congratulate you for coming and showing up and being a part of this thing. All those who want to, you can. Get your blog, get your Kalatu blog, start blogging, and be a part of this. And for those of you who tune in every week, and you may not even be a part of the mastermind, I just want you all to know that it's great having you here, and always feel free to speak up in the comments and interact. We love to have you here. You're welcome. And all we want is to have this message reach as far into the depths of this industry as possible, because it's needed in a major way. And sometimes I've been accused of being very altruistic, but I've sat and I've had conversations with people who are, have some perspective on the industry, and outside perspective with success and inside perspective. And none of them have said that I'm too altruistic. In fact, we need more people like us. Now that question is it you? You don't have to be a member of the Next Level Mastermind to be able to go and make a difference and be a part of this vision, because we speak it every week. So go forth and speak it in your way that works for you. Raising people up. And I'll continue to keep my 3 words: showing up, being bold, expressive, and consistent. If you find your 3 words as to how you show up in the world, you define them, and you live by that code every day. For me, it's BEC. And I may just change that expressive to epic. But for now, it's expressive, because I ain't holding back. That's what I got for everyone tonight. Take them home, Amy.
Yep. So thank you, everybody, for being here with us. And we love you. And if you aren't a part of our amazing think tank and online awesome community of online entrepreneurs and visionaries, click the link below. You can get started with us right now. We'd love to welcome you into our community with open arms. And for the rest of you that are already with us, thanks for joining us on our late show. And we will be chatting with you throughout the week in the Facebook group, and see you back here next week. Have a great week, everybody. Do great things. We love you. Bye.
Take care.